everybody, and welcome to our newest project for first responder wellness, No One Fights Alone, an in-depth conversation about mental health and addiction in the first responder space. We're joined by your hosts, Austin Pedersen and Josh Adams.
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of No One Fights Alone. We always have special guests, but today is one podcast that I've been looking forward to since we put this trip together a few months back because of the need that this organization is filling for our first responders across the country. In this space, I feel like you guys are a little bit famous. At least when I started working in this space 4 years ago, I heard about you guys right off the bat.
Well, that was my goal, to be famous.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Accomplish something finally.
And so I want to open it up. We do have Chief here as well. Chief, you'll add in and say hi to everybody.
Hi to everybody.
We'll open it up to Mr. Nick Turkovich, and we'll talk a little bit about West Coast post-trauma.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. So, yeah, where do you want to get started? History of the organization, or me, or what are we doing?
Let's get a little history about yourself, just kind of your background in law enforcement and where you're from, and then we'll drop right into the history of the organization as well.
Yeah, so I was born and raised San Francisco Bay Area, and escaped, planning to never go back, and spent 9 years in the military. I was a medic, and California it draws you. I don't know how it is here in Utah, but California, just grabbed me, pulled me back, and I needed a job. And I don't like to admit this to my fire friends, but I tried to get on the fire department, but they weren't hiring guys like me. So it was a second chance. Let's go over to the police side, and got hired by a city in the East Bay, Antioch, California. About 120, 130,000 people in that town. Very high crime rate. Be honest with you, it was a lot of fun. If you want to be a police officer, that's a fun place to work. But it also carried a lot of trauma for the responders. On the police side, the fire side, dispatch, everybody involved in that town was suffering. And what my history a little bit in the military was, I was diagnosed with PTSD from some of the stuff that I had dealt with. And at the PD, I started seeing the same symptoms in some of our officers. And I was naive to that at the time. I thought only post-traumatic stress was a military thing, but then I found that it was not. And so pretty early in my career, I started in 87, I believe. And I want to say 92, 93, we started a peer support program. Shooting from the hip, and we had no idea what we were doing. First peer support meeting, most successful we ever had, was in a bar. And we found out that's probably not the best place to do this. But we did have numbers. And then we progressively became more professional in what we did. And I think by the time my career was ended, I think we were doing a pretty good job taking care of our folks.
Yeah. Well, and so growing up in California, at least from my parents, who also grew up in California in the Bay Area, Antioch was a place we stayed away from.
Yeah. A lot of people avoided that town, although you could get cheap meth.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's always bonuses. Yeah.
So
but as far as you guys creating, you said 87 was when?
No, that's when I started. It had to be like 92, 93. It was pretty early in my career. So it was after I was involved in a pretty horrible shooting.
Okay. Were you guys the first in the area to start a peer support team, or were you taking hints from San Francisco? Kind of where did you guys get? I know you were flying by the seat of your pants, but did you have any direction?
We had zero direction. We basically started because we had a friend of the police department, I would like to say a friend of the police department, who was a therapist that would volunteer her time to come down and just chat with us. And she gave us the idea about, why don't you start a support? We didn't call it peer support. I don't even know what we called it back then. But essentially it was peer support. So yeah, so that's how I got involved in this. I'm not a therapist. That's not my gig. But according to some people, I'm an expert in peer support. So that's how I got involved with the West Coast Post Trauma Retreat, or our banner organization, which is the First Responder Support Network.
Yeah.
So that's how that led into that. And I've been working with them for about 16 years now.
Okay. Yeah, and that's, like I said, like in this space, I feel like you guys are famous, and so can you tell us a little bit about how it started and where the where the thoughts were at the beginning, like if it was going to turn into what it is now, or if it was meant to just be kind of a California thing, or
Yeah. I was not there at the beginning. I came into it about 4 or 5 years after it had started. Started in Marin County, and it was a tragedy. It was a police officer in Marin County that committed suicide by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge, and it was some of his colleagues and some of the mental health professionals in the Marin County area decided we can't let that ever happen again. And the goal with the organization was, if we can prevent one suicide, then we're successful. And that was the goal. So it took a year, about a year and a half to get started before they ran the first retreat. And that was in 2000, no, when was that? Yeah, I guess 2000, if I remember right. Anyway, well, I'm not good with math. So, and we've been doing them ever since. We started off with 1 a year, went to 3, then it blossomed. It kind of blew up into about 7 or 8 a year. When I took over the position that I have now, we were doing 10 a year. Now we're doing 30 around the country. So, yeah, we're growing fast because there's a great need out there.
So, question: when did it become this needs to be a retreat, a multi-day experience versus, the old school but continuing with critical incident debriefs, things like that? Where it's like, hey, we're gonna have a meeting.
Right.
Where did the notion come where, hey, this needs to be an actual retreat?
Yeah. So there was a program called Onsite out in Massachusetts that was doing something very similar to what we do. I don't know how long they had been around, but our folks, our founding fathers, kind of reached out to them and says, hey, we would like to do something like that here. How do we do it? And what they found was it had to be an inpatient program. And they explained to our founders, but don't call it an inpatient program because you're never going to get a cop or a firefighter to walk through your doors. Mm-hmm. So that's how they came up with the retreat, and we've kept that name. So there's, don't get me wrong, a critical stress debriefing is a very valuable tool, but it is not going to get deep enough to where the significant trauma is going to be impacted.
Correct.
That's in my opinion, as somebody who's sat in a lot of them.
And so, because what part of to frame that question for me is, for the culture inside of first responders and then administration and things like that, having a meeting is simple, affordable. It's something that we can easily check the box on versus, hey, this a retreat, if you will, is, it's not just it's a financial investment, but hey, this is time away from work, time away potentially from family. You're retreating versus, and so I guess that's kind of where, when and what level of support and buy-in did you find from a cultural, from the line officer, if you will, and then from an administrative one, and who kind of led out in that formulating, hey, this is cool?
Yeah, that's, we still haven't conquered that mountain yet, right? So I think, in the job that I do now, traveling around the country, I'm still hearing that it would be easier to do a critical stress debrief and then, slap everybody on the back and say, okay, we're done. so we're still working through that. I would say the philosophy has changed probably because some integral parts were moving at the right time. San Francisco Police Department started their behavioral science unit around that time, which is still, super active in that department today. So I think changing the culture in the Bay Area was probably what allowed us to grow, and we're slowly moving our way across the nation. But still, there's still that stigma that is attached to mental health, and on the law enforcement side, the fire side, anywhere in the responder culture, there's still that stigma. But I think we're moving forward. I mean, the fact that that we're here in Utah doing what you guys do here, we're spread out now in multiple states, so the culture is changing, but it's slow, right? How long did we carry 6 guns? When I started as a police officer, everybody else had automatics, but we had 6 guns because that's the way we do it.
Yeah.
Right. So the culture is slow to change.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those conundrums where, like, even I'm listening to you speak and you even talk about inpatient, right? We don't use that word even. We're a residential center.
It's brilliant because I'll go to a center or a retreat, because of the stigma, right?
Yeah, the stigma and the culture and the idea of what something like this is, or even something like your retreat is.
Yeah.
I mean, so talk a little bit about length and what's kind of expected out of those officers when they arrive.
Yeah. So our retreats start on a Sunday afternoon. Our program is unique because I think the line we use is peer driven and clinically, overseen or something. I can't remember exactly what they say, but the fact that we're surrounded by peers, and most of our peers that come back and volunteer have been through the program as clients, where they were paying customers coming in, getting the treatment, and part of their recovery plan is coming back and paying it forward. So it's kind of unique. When they show up on a Sunday, it can be completely overwhelming. We hear this from our clients all the time. It's like, where did all these people come from? So we have about a 3-to-1 ratio of our volunteers to a client. And as you know, any responder that's suffering from post-traumatic stress is isolated. They have removed themselves from their families, the friends. Some of them are showing up to work, but that could be the only thing. So we put them in an environment that's very uncomfortable. And I guess I'm doing a really bad job about selling this thing, right?
Not at all.
But the reality is, they're overwhelmed when they first get there.
Well, you have to be uncomfortable for change. That's part of it.
Yeah.
If you are not uncomfortable in a situation like yourself, I don't believe they're doing the work that it takes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, and we do, and it's uncomfortable from Sunday all the way till Friday. Mm-hmm. So it starts on Sunday, ends on Friday. It's a live-in program. So our clients live. We have in California. I'll use that as our main. That's our main campus. So we have a facility that we own. Staff, everybody lives there 24/7. We take all of our meals together. We, if you have time to go out and exercise, you're exercising with a bunch of people that you just met. So they're thrown into this environment where they start learning that they're not alone. When I was going through my stuff with my mental health issues, I thought I was the only person on earth that was going through this. And I bought that. I sold it to myself and I bought it. But when we put them in that environment, it's slow. It's a slow change in them. But they start realizing, okay, I'm not alone. I'm not the only responder that's ever gone through this stuff. We do a pretty good job of showing them their symptoms. From what we do with our clinical intakes before they come to the program, we know what they're going through. And post-traumatic stress symptoms are symptoms. And so when we put them together, and none of them have the same incident, most of them don't even know each other. They work in different parts of the country, in different cultures, but the symptoms are the same. And then all of a sudden they start realizing, okay, I'm not alone. So we do that very quickly in the program to try to get rid of that stranger danger thing. What can I tell you the rest of the week? Very intense. We take them through to help them process their critical incident. So we make them relive their critical incident. They talk about it, which is very difficult, for responders to do. They can tell you the police story, either the war story with the humor and all that stuff thrown into it, or they'll tell you the police report, or for the medics or the firefighters, the after action report. They can tell that. They've learned how to tell that story. But getting into the emotional side, that's where the problem lies. They don't share that part. They start to learn throughout the beginning of the week, throughout the week, that they're going to share that part. As uncomfortable as that is for them, they start to pick that up, and then it comes out.
Are there ever participants that come in and they don't know what their trauma is? Like, to say, hey, this is the experience, or the war story or whatever, where they're just like, I'm screwed up and I'm not exactly sure why, or I don't know which one. Like, it's more of a cumulative thing to them. Do you guys help them kind of, I don't know, triage them, so to speak, or something like that? Well, okay, well, let's get down to the one.
Right. Yeah.
Walk them through that. Okay, well, this is the one that the rest of them stack themselves on top of, maybe, or that they all tend to orbit around this one event. Is that kind of what you have to do with some of them sometimes?
Yeah. Some of them have very clear understanding why they're there. It's that big one. Mm-hmm. It's the one that has been affecting them for however long they've been in the business. They don't need much help to get there. They're coming with an idea. This is what I want to work on. The cumulative stress, the people that have been in the business for a long time, that have, they're carrying a rucksack full of trauma, and it's like, they almost ask which one you want to deal with today. Yeah. So they really can't pinpoint the specific call, but they know that their lives are falling apart. Yeah. And then we get the ones that we really have. They have no clue. They have no clue that they've even been subjected to trauma. They just think this is their normal, and they're being and they get referred by a therapist or somebody like that, or a colleague. Mm-hmm. And then we're having to educate them. We got to educate them on what post-traumatic stress is, what critical incident stress is. So we do an education process throughout the week as well.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and like I think that's one of the most important things is, like, you guys aren't marketing this like a traditional marketing scheme where we're putting ads on Google or whatever you're doing. A lot of it is peer driven, right? A lot of it is someone who's been through the program, whether it was 20 years ago or a year. Mm-hmm. And they're talking to their buddy or their colleague, and they're saying, "You've got to do this."
Yeah. Frequently, it'll happen. We'll get. I'm not going to say any departments. Any department in any state in the union. The next thing you know is we get another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then we become kind of the caregivers for that specific department, and that's happened frequently around the country, where you wouldn't think, some of those departments I didn't know they existed. And then next thing I know is we have 6 or 7 clients coming from that department. It's all because one person goes back, has the courage to say, hey, I wasn't in California at the beach. This is what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I love you, I care about you, and maybe you should get on that plane. And so that's how, we don't have to, market this.
Oh, it's the same with us. We have a department in Colorado, 200 members in this department. We've treated 14 over 2.5 years, and I didn't even know this town existed.
Right.
before, and it took one person who was higher up in the department to go seek the help, told nobody, came back, then spread the word.
Yeah.
And that's the power of what you're striving for, is that healing moment, and then the peer-driven portion, which is somebody who said, I've been through it, walk through the fire with me as well.
Yeah, yeah, and I think I think what makes our program successful is the peer support. There's a lot of work that's done with our clinicians. They're getting into those little nooks and crannies in our brain, right? They're digging that stuff out. But a lot of the good work, and I hear this from our former clients all the time. It's like, we have this beautiful deck out there that overlooks a little lake, and they'll say, yeah, when I was out on the deck with so and so, when I was on the deck, talking with the group, you don't hear a lot of it. Well, when I was in the processing room, no.
Yeah.
When I was on the deck, it's that peer support, and I say this a lot of times, to try to explain what we do. It's, we can put people that in a room that care, that don't understand the job. And that's good, right? We want people that care about us. But when we put people in a room that care, but they've also stepped in the same crap as the clients, now we got to buy in.
Yeah, that level of connection can't be replicated with somebody's education or even their intent, really. But it's that, we can meet each other half hour ago and already kind of consider each other to be peers just based on our history and our story.
Yeah.
So it drives that connection for these emotionally disconnected people.
Yeah.
And they're craving it, I think, a lot of the times. Is that, that's one of the biggest reliefs I think a lot of people find is, I came to this space and I'm connecting with people when I felt isolated.
Right. We do follow up. It's kind of a funny story. The other night, I just closed down a retreat a week ago, and we do follow up Zoom meetings with our clients, and they were all there, and they were all laughing. I'm getting ready to start this meeting, and then we're on this big Zoom call, and they're yucking it up, and they're poking fun at each other. And I'm going, wait a minute, man, I got to hurry up. I got to pack I got to go to Utah the next day, But then I sat back and go, man, this is the magic, because when they walked into that building a couple of weeks ago, they were broken people.
Yeah.
I get emotional when I think about this. It's like they were broken, and it's like now they're yucking it up like when we were rookies. And it almost brings back to the life of the job too. So it's very rewarding
That's
to
that restoration of, there's nothing wrong with them, but it's been such a change that's happened to them. They connect, and so they come in broken. They wade through the tears together and the hurt and the pain, and then they come out on the backside. And we have it here too, where it's like we'll have some of these sessions where it's like everybody's just bullshitting the whole time because it's like nobody wants to be serious because they're up, they're happy, they're connected, they're enthusiastic about their lives, where they did not come in with that at all.
I was at a retreat years ago, and one of the clients had some tragic news, and his father had died, kind of a sudden death, and we're getting ready for him. Okay, we got to pack him up. We got to get him to the airport. We got to get him home. And as we're planning this as a staff, he comes up and he goes, "Hey, I'm not going anywhere." Wait a minute. You got to. He goes, "No, I've got 2 more days here." He goes, "These are my people. I'm more. If I leave, I'm going to go into operations mode, and I'm going to fix everybody's problems. But I can't do that because I got 2 more days here." And I went, "Wow." And the good news is nobody at home was telling me he had to come home either, right?
That's rare.
Yeah.
I think that's a true supportive family as well.
I said, you do the couple extra days there. We will take care of ourselves until you get home. And he said, and he's come back several times as a peer, and he tells that story. And he said if that would have happened on the Sunday, the first day of the retreat, he would have been out of there, bags packed.
Sure.
Right? But he saw the connection. He needed that connection, and he saw how he was healing in such a short amount of time, and he wasn't gonna cut himself short, which was, it's kind of a testament. I think it's a testament to the people that put their lives on, out there, for the citizens, and that's the kind of people that they are. Yeah. But in this moment in time, he realized the best thing I can do is take care of myself and let everybody else take care of themselves until I'm ready. So it was good.
It seems like, and tell me if I'm wrong, this is kind of always the way I've thought about when similar cultures and professions get together for something like that. It feels like in the short period of time that they're together, the friendships and the connections that they form are stronger than some people that they've known for 20 years.
No doubt. I've been in, firefights with my fellow officers that I worked with for 25 years. I'm closer to those people that come through those retreats by far, because what we shared, in the blazing glory of the streets of Antioch was a moment in time where it was, the excitement and adrenaline was all there, but it goes away. But when you're in this environment, you're sharing the deepest, darkest things of who you are. You're finally showing your humanity. And if somebody is going to bare their soul to me, I feel like I can bare my soul to them, and that builds that camaraderie. I'm sure that, when I pass from this life, I'm sure that my department will probably, send an honor guard of 15-year-old officers or whoever's left. But you know who will be there in droves? I really believe some of these clients that have come through this program for the past 16 years. And that's where I think that's what's important. So it does. And I'm sure you see that here, right, in this program. I bet they're a little, I'm just guessing, that when they leave this program, they're a little nervous to go back to the world, right?
Oh, yeah.
We see that. I've done 189 retreats around the country. I've seen it 189 times where these responders are going, can't I take this with me? Can I take this to the PD or the firehouse or the dispatch center? And I go, no, no. Now you got to be able to learn how to live in the real world where stuff is going to smash in the mouth.
Yeah, but they have that group that they went through as a support
but
system.
They will always have that.
Yeah, because I know countless groups of clients that have gone through here years down the road. Like we just had Brad on, still talking to the same group of people that he went through with, almost all of them in great places.
Yeah.
People getting awards and people doing medical retirement, whatever it is, they're walking through all of those things together. Yeah. And some failures and some successes and divorces, and that same group that spent that short, in the grand scheme of their life, right, a really short period of time together, are closer than, some of their childhood friends.
Yeah, we had a story the other night. A guy told me, I've known this guy for probably 15 years, and I didn't know this part of the story though. About 5 years after he'd gone through our program, he had a really rough call, and he knew his career was going to come to an end, and he was contemplating suicide. Drove to a place, decided this was going to be the place to do that, and he picked up his phone and he started dialing, and one person from the retreat that he had gone to 5 years ago picked up that phone. Well, he's still alive because of the conversation that he had with that person.
I'm getting goosebumps. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick up the fucking phone.
Right. We call it the 500-pound phone, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he did. He did exactly what we tell him, and he did it, and he's alive. And I always laugh. I go, because he says, I kept going down the list, and finally, somebody answered, because we tell people, hey, look, everyone's busy. You're on, especially if you're still working, you're working graveyards or something. Keep making those phone calls. Just don't end at the first one. And he didn't. And thank God he didn't. You know, and that person picked up the phone. And the reality was they weren't really good friends at the retreat. They didn't really bond together. But this other peer answered the phone, and that guy is alive. And now he's paying it forward. He's, you know, he comes and does retreats for us. He's very active in his community, you know, the police community in the state where he lives now. I mean, it works. It works. You know, and that's why, you know, I laugh. You know, we were before, you know, the chief. We were talking about, hey, you could retire if you want to, right? You know, it's like people will ask me, hey, when are you going to really retire? I've been retired from the police department for 10 years. I go, I don't know. I don't think I ever want to retire from this.
I'm living my best life. Yeah.
I mean, this is, you know, I look back at the police career. I mean, it gets more awesome every year because my stories get better, right?
Right.
But the reality was, man, I don't know what I accomplished as a police officer, but I know what I've accomplished doing this kind of work, you know, supporting my brothers and sisters around the world now. Mm-hmm. We have cops that came from Finland. I didn't even know that was a place. And, you know, Australia, Singapore. You know, now we're starting to see, you know, responders from other parts of the world that are reaching out for help and coming to this little spot in California to get the help. And I have no idea how the hell a cop in Singapore found out about us, you know? But it gets out there.
Peers.
Peers.
There's got to be
People
some way or another.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I mean,
People
so that's one thing I want to hit off, because the goal of this particular podcast is to spread the message of what is available for people. So talk about how it has spread from a small town in California out to these places like Indiana and, you know, other remote retreats that you do.
Yeah. So sadly, we have a very long waiting list to get into our program. It's it can be anywhere from 6 to 9 months at any time, and it's hard to tell a responder that's calling you, you know, that shows that courage for the first time to be able to reach out, and then we have to tell them, yeah, we'll see you in 6 months. And it's heartbreaking for me, you know, as one of the directors of this organization to have to tell people that. So we have decided that we're going to spread this out. So in the past 6 years, we started expanding, you know, going to different states: Arizona, Oregon, Washington, Indiana, Nebraska, Kansas, and there might be more. I just can't think right now. But we've gone to those places with the goal that we would be able to help the responders in those communities so that they don't have to fly all the way to California, you know, for treatment. That we will have retreats run in those states and in those general areas. So that's what we're doing now, and we're spreading the wealth. And the unique thing about what we do is, well, I'm sure you understand that every area of the country has a different kind of police culture, a different kind of fire culture, and why not run these retreats that understand that culture, right? The Midwest is different from Northern California. Sure. I mean, it's like a different place on earth.
Utah from California.
Utah.
I mean, I'm being a person from both, and you coming visit. How different is it here?
Oh yeah,
just culturally, and that bleeds into the police force, the fire, you know, right. Everything.
You know, so
right.
Yeah, so why not take a bunch of peers and clinicians that understand the culture of that particular place, and let them help their brothers and sisters. You know, our retreat in Kansas runs the same way as our retreat in California, what with just a little different flair that is unique to them. Oregon, same way. Washington, same way. And it's because they understand that. They understand the culture of those responders. Now, because we have so many that from other parts of the country where we don't have satellites, we will send people from Florida to Indiana. We'll send California people, you know, up to Washington, you know, wherever space is available. But the goal is, you know, when I retire, if I ever retire from this job, I'm hoping that there'll be dozens of satellites of what we do around this country to help the large number of people that need it.
I've never seen your head shake up and down so many times. You're into this.
I'm a believer.
Yeah, I can tell. I can
Yeah.
tell. You just, everything he says, you're nodding. What are your thoughts?
Preach.
Yeah.
My thoughts. Yeah. No, it is. The good thing is everywhere is adaptable to stuff. It had to start somewhere. So, you know, where you were at, great. So it's not that anybody else. It's not like, okay, is Utah, Wyoming, are they doing it wrong? It's they're not doing it, and so it's spreading them. Well, this is not that complicated to do for people. You know, we have. It's not like this is some secret society or credentials or anything like that. It's like, hey, yeah, you go then and tell your friends about us because we want to talk. We want to work with your friends too, and that kind of momentum in a community blossoms to the county, to the community at large, to the state, to whatever, to where, yeah, I really think we're at a tipping point where, especially this next generation that's coming up in our workforce, if we can get wellness to be a part of their culture, I mean, we're literally conquering one of the biggest Goliaths, one of the biggest challenges we have in law enforcement, and that's the shit that we deal with, being our own worst enemies oftentimes, because we don't handle things the right way internally, which leads to us handling things the wrong way externally. And so as far as our abilities to do all of the things that our communities want us to do, and our communities are definitely demanding more of us now than ever. Well, so if we need to be more professional than ever, well, we need to equip our people better than ever. And I really believe that that's, part of what that legacy, when you do retire, when you do go away, is, yeah, you've left something that's going to run, and like I said, I believe this next generation, this kind of stuff, I think is going to be automatic. It's not going to be people feeling like they got to take a leap of faith anymore. It's like, no, this is what we do. This is how we take care of ourselves. And the person that's the weirdo or whatever you want to call it is the ones that are like, I'm not doing anything like that. I'm not doing self-care. I'm not.
You mean there's going to be a day when the guy who's drinking himself to an oblivion, that's going to be the weird guy?
He's the dumbass.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
You've got a lot of hope in humanity in general.
Yeah.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
because if you talk to someone who's been in the career as long as you have, that is not their thought process.
No, it's not. I mean, that's just it, is it? And it was not my thought process for 17 years. My thought process was do not feel, do not feel, do not feel, do not feel. Work harder, work harder, work harder. And that, for me, lasted. I was able to maintain that for 17 years. And then crash, boom, bang. And, and that's kind of where my platform advocacy, whatever you want to call it from, is like, okay, I'm not embarrassed. I'm not ashamed. I'm not the same person I was when I was 23 years old and jumped into this career, but I'm not a evil, wicked, bad person either. I'm still a good person. I'm just different.
Yeah.
And that those differences are okay, and we can acknowledge those differences. We can talk about them, and we can tell a rookie, hey, learn something from me. Besides just street survival, learn some emotional, or learn some wellness stuff from me too. Take better care of yourself, because, if your mind is the best tool in your toolkit, why have we conscientiously been so neglectful of it historically in our profession for the last 100 years?
Yeah.
Don't treat the mind. In fact, let's poison your mind instead of treating it.
Yeah, and it's refreshing for me is when I see veteran officers like yourself, you've been around for a long time, that especially when you climb up the ranks and being able to talk about this and making, painting this picture of the future, which is a bright future. If we could just get them to stop drinking themselves to death.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't even talked about the suicide problem in our culture. But if we can get to that point, I mean, I hope in my lifetime that I can sell the building that we have in California, because who needs retreats for cops and firefighters that have post-traumatic stress? We don't need it anymore. They take care of themselves, their departments, their cities, the citizens back them, and they take care of them. we close our doors and we become a winery, and then we make some real money.
Oh yeah, I'm ready to go work on a farm
Right?
if this is never needed again.
Let's grow some
I'm cool
alfalfa.
dying. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Bale some hay.
Yeah. And could it happen? Why couldn't it? We have people that are strong mentally, that whatever they're doing to stay that way, they're able to do this career. Not every police officer or firefighter that does 30 years is sucking his thumb in the corner. Some people are able to do
Yeah.
it, and they're doing that with limited help. So what if we can give them help? If I'm a huge proponent of peer support, and mental health resiliency within the careers. Why not 30 years that it's a different culture? And we do close the doors. And I mean, I'm not a wine guy, so I'll sell the property and give it to somebody who knows grapes. But that's the reality. We can do it. But in the meantime, there has to be programs like Chateau. There has to be programs like West Coast. And there has to be whoever else wants to do this the right way. We need them out there to do it, because there's a lot of people that are hurting.
Yeah. And I think on that same side, we have to believe that we're making a difference, because, I mean, obviously we are now tracking with a fair amount of accuracy the number of LEO suicides that occur.
Yeah.
Where, I think it was about 30 years ago we started, the LEOCA tracking line of duty deaths. Well, within the past few years now we're tracking suicides on a national level. But one number we don't track, and frankly, there's not a real way to do it. Well, how many have we prevented? You say, I've been to 189 retreats. Okay. Well, however many people that sums up to, how many of those people are still breathing air now and contributing to our society, professionally retired, peer, working at Home Depot, retiree, whatever it is that they're doing, but they're still connected to life, and they have families and stuff like that. We'll never know. That's the undiscoverable statistic. The same way, in crime stats, where it's like, well, how many burglaries did you have? Well, we can tell you that. Well, how many burglaries did you prevent? We have no idea.
Yeah.
Well,
But I can tell you from my experience in our program, we've saved a lot of people.
Yeah.
We've saved a lot. Yeah, I don't know how you track that.
Yeah. But it's and that's where it's like we have to look at it and say, this is working. It's not like we're going to have people that are going to fill out some questionnaire of, what saved you or whatever, but we have to look at things like that and say, hey, it is effective. It is working. These are the differences that we can employ to create that resiliency in our people and the ability to survive and thrive in life, where it's not like we're not getting there's not a hard quantifiable measurement of how well is this working. It is working, and we have to accept it is working.
Yeah, and I think will we see the statistics go down? That would be a measurable way of looking at it. Do we see the stats go down across the nation if there is a drop in suicide? Yeah. So then we can say something has changed. What is that? I don't know. I mean, we are on that wellness push in our culture, right? In the police culture and the fire culture, the wellness is being pushed right now. And I know that there's some people pushing it for the wrong reasons. I mean, come on, it's human beings, right? But it's being pushed. So in 20 years from now, if our stats look better, then maybe it worked. Maybe it worked. But yeah, how are we going to measure that? And that's one of the sad things too around the nation. I still hear chief executives saying, "Well, we can't support this program financially because we don't see the end results. We don't have the statistics." Even though peer support traditionally will give you stats of how many contacts, but it's hard when you're counting the beans, right? Okay, how many beans do I put into this? Well, I don't know. Worth it? Well, my question to some of the bosses is, well, have you had a suicide?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Have you lost an officer or a firefighter to suicide? No, we haven't. Then you're fortunate.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we should just keep doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm looking at, in my head, I just counted while you were talking, and I can't confirm their names, neither can you to me. But I'm counting 16 people I know that have gone through your program, and each one of them, when they talk about it, they talk about it saving their life.
Yeah.
And that there's no reason, why are they telling me that? Obviously, because it means it did something for them.
Yeah.
That's the measurement tool that we get to see every day that those bean counters don't get to.
You're right. You're right. And it's not necessarily, and it's not always when they say, you saved my life or the program saved my life. Did we prevent somebody from eating their gun? It's not always that. It's the life. I remember asking one of the founders when I first got into this program. I said, because I was a military medic. My job was to fix people, get them back on the line, right? So I was thinking, this program has got to, how many people are you putting back to work? And I remember asking him, how many people go back to work? And he goes, I don't know. And I remember thinking, well, you should probably know that. And he goes, we're not a return to work program. We're a return to life program. Mm-hmm. And that hit me hard when he said that. And it changed my mindset. I don't need to get you mentally healthy to go back out in the job and be re-traumatized, because that's a potential. I don't care how healthy you get, in Chateau or at West Coast, the potential, if you're going to go out there and do this job, there's a potential you're going to get hurt again, right? I don't need to put people back on the street. If they can go back on the street, God bless them. And that's a win. But if I can get a phone call from a kid that now is a police officer that's asking for help, because this just happened to me recently, who's a young police officer now. His dad came through the program before I even got started 20 years ago. And he says, I think I need to come through this program. It saved my dad's life. Okay. All right.
And we're talking marriage. We're talking,
Yeah.
when we're encompassing life, we're talking about all the things that we all take for granted.
Yep.
Our everyday walking home, our dogs, whatever it could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, that's life. That's what happiness is supposed to be, is the relationships we have, everything that we formed over the years. And it doesn't always have to be the career.
It's that saving your thrive. Not just your life, not just your maintaining a pulse and respirating and all that stuff, but yeah, saving their ability to thrive in life and not just exist.
Right.
Because the guy that's drinking himself to death is still alive, but he is not thriving.
Yeah, and he's
so we
and
have
he's
to look at
drowning
a
his
big
family
picture.
too.
It's not just whether or not you're still on this side of the grass or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that we've, saved families.
Yeah.
So we have one responder come through, but a spouse and 3 kids also received benefits from sending their mom or dad back a little bit healthier. Now, that doesn't take away it's not a quick fix. I mean, this is a lifetime process that they have to work through, but it's nice to be on that end. I was talking to a guy, and he goes, Nick, have you watched that show Yellowstone? I go, yeah. I goes, yeah, I like that show. And I go, yeah, me too. It's pretty cool. Pretty violent though, man. And he goes, yeah, but it's a good show. And he goes, thank you. I went, am I paying for your Netflix account? I don't. What am I doing here? I don't know. Why are you thanking me? He goes, if I wouldn't have gone through the program, I would have killed myself 5 years ago. I would have never saw that show. I went, okay.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the shit I'm talking about. I think before we wrap up, the last part that I want to get out, I think when I see this personally, and I want your thoughts on this, is I think it's a tough thing for people like yourself and Josh to help those understand that, this career is not necessarily their life. Because a lot of people, I think, come into your program and our program where their job defines who they are, everything about them. It's everything. So what are you seeing in that aspect? Are you able to work through some of those problems, or do you, when someone is experiencing that, is it like a red flag or anything?
Yeah, there's only one place where I've seen it as strong, that identity on what you do. what brings a paycheck home, right? There's only one other community I've seen that take it that seriously, and that's professional athletes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when they get their knee blown out, their life is over. You know, it's like they can't run with a football anymore, or they can't hit a hockey puck anymore because of this injury, and their life just spirals because they've identified themselves as this professional athlete, right?
That was my dad. Absolutely.
Really? Okay. Yeah. So you understand that?
100% grew
Yeah.
up with it.
Yeah, the church I used to work at, we had a lot of the local, like the Oakland A's and Giants players used to go to our church, and I would hear that from them. It's like they were freaking out about losing their ability to throw a fastball 90 miles an hour, right? And I'd have a guy in my office that was suicidal because he can't throw a ball anymore. And then later that afternoon, I got a cop in there who blew his knee out. He says, "What am I now?" So it's that identity. I don't know where that starts, man. I want to go back in time, find that person that started that myth, and punch him in the throat, because it's bullshit.
Yeah.
I am way more than a police officer, right? But there was a time when that's all I was. When I was injured, and I thought I wasn't going to be able to be a cop anymore, I remember sitting in my chief's office, crying. Which is not easy to do in front of the chief of police. But he was a friend of mine, and I said, "What am I going to do?" And he's looking at me. He's going, "Don't you do that thing up there at the West Coast Post-Drama Retreat?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Do that." He goes, "You are way more than a street cop." Well, yeah, but right now it's all falling apart. So I even bought into that stuff. But with some separation now, yeah, that was a career. It was a great career. Don't get me wrong. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Maybe I'd trade the city I worked in where I didn't expect.
Should have worked in Danville.
I would have gone to Danville, yeah. but yeah, we try to break down that, but that's hard to break down. When I heard it said one time, it was a guy that was addicted to pills, and he says it's harder for me to put down the identity of being this guy was a firefighter. It's harder for me to put down the identity of being a firefighter than the bottle of pills. He goes, he goes, "I've been trying to kick pills for a year." And I go, that really resonated with me. So somewhere in there, in our psyche, we become the badge. I don't know. I don't know how that starts. I don't know where it starts, but it's hard, and I don't think we can break that down in 6 days.
Yeah. Years, even? Can that be broken down in years?
I think it can be. I think when the realization comes that you are more than the job, when that clicks, but I don't know where that clicks. I mean, Chief, you're still in it. I mean, is that still part of you?
The identity piece?
Yeah.
Not like it used to be, because I do feel more irrelevant. I mean, I don't help. There's not one person in my 100,000 citizen community that I directly help the same way I did when I was a street cop.
Right.
I'm not impacting people's lives. And so, yeah, for me, the meaning, finding meaning has been one of the biggest challenges, frankly. Finding the identity has been one of the biggest challenges, because I don't, in a way, I feel so unqualified or inept in what I'm doing. It's like, hey, I'm just trying to keep things from getting worse, versus, oh, I'm going to fix everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And where like you talked about a little bit earlier, you don't know how many people you don't know what bit of good you did do as a police officer in your career. Because there's just no real way of measuring it. And then when you're still, and then in where I'm still at, stuff where it's like, it's like, how do I measure any level of success and meaning and things like that, where, yeah, you've been able to move into this second profession, and you see every day, every retreat, hey, these are people that have been impacted by what I'm doing. And so, yeah, I mean, I look at that with a bit of envy, if you will, that it's like, hey, you're actually able to recognize the impact you're having on the world.
Yeah. But back to your question, Austin. I don't. It's hard. It's hard to put down this identity. But and the sad thing is, sometimes they can't even see that they're a husband or a wife or a father or a son or a brother.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They can't see that. All they see is that uniform. Tomorrow, I got to film a quick little video for a friend of mine who's retiring. And I'll be honest with you, I'm worried about him because that's all this is the only thing that he's ever wanted to do in his life, and he's coming to the end of his career. I'm a little worried about what he's gonna do. Yeah. So there's gonna be probably a good conversation I'm gonna have to have with him.
And the reason I asked that question is, as our listeners know, I'm not a first responder, and there are limitations when I'm talking to someone on the phone of, I don't know if it'd be advice or, not a licensed clinician, and I don't want to be, but I had a firefighter yesterday ask me that question. How can I get rid of this identity that I've had for 30 years? Him in particular was 30 years. And my response was, I don't know. Because I didn't. And I think that what I got out of what both of you said was keep working at it. Because the day will come. The day came for you. Correct?
Yeah.
And it's happening for you. But it took a lot of work.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to leave with that because that stuck with me. I thought about it all night last night.
Yeah.
What was the answer to that? Was there an answer even?
Yeah, maybe you just got to point out all the other things he is, right?
Yeah.
But in saying that, sometimes they pushed all those other things they are, the dad, the father, all that stuff. They've pushed those things far away that is their only thing left. And that's where I get a little frightened.
Yeah.
So yeah, and maybe 20 years from now, cops and firefighters, won't be building that identity part of it. I don't know. The future is wide open.
Yeah. And that's where I want to leave this podcast is on that note, which is for those that may be feeling that way, or for those that may be struggling or having suicidal ideation, is you are a brother, a father, you are worth it, I guess, is the thing to leave it on. So
yeah, if a cop commits suicide tomorrow, in 5 or 6 years they will be forgotten at that agency, but that family will never forget, and that will leave a lasting stain on that family for the rest of their lives. So where do you want to put the work in? You want to put your work in where the paycheck comes, or do you want to put the work in at home where you should be doing it? So.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Nick, it's been a pleasure the last couple of days.
It's been fun
to get to know you. Chief, you get uglier every time I see you.
Shut up.
But thank you for coming on. Nick, thank you. Hopefully we'll get to do it again sometime.
Yeah. Absolutely. You guys can come out to Cali and do it.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to be dropping Chief off for a 6-day stay.
Well, yeah, you're always welcome. We always got a bed. We even treat chiefs of police.
Well, good.
Yeah. And we have you don't get to eat with the rest of the people, but
oh, right.
Yeah.
You have cloth napkins and stuff. I hope. Okay.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. You have it's all catered.
Okay.
We want to make
good,
sure
good,
you
good.
feel at home.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this segment of No One Fights Alone. No One Fights Alone is sponsored by
Chateau Recovery is a 16-bed treatment facility nestled in the foothills of the Wasatch Mountains in Midway, Utah. Chateau's First Responder Resiliency Program is designed to treat the unique challenges and issues that first responders encounter in the course of their careers. Chateau's comprehensive and highly individualized approach to treatment addresses more than just the presenting issues. It addresses the why. Each of their seasoned, trauma-trained, and culturally competent therapists utilize evidence-based, specialized therapies to treat trauma at its core and enable clients to begin the healing process while developing a resilient and healthy relationship with stress. Chateau Recovery is trusted by departments and agencies from around the country to treat responders and veterans. In fact, it is one of only a handful of facilities nationwide that is vetted and approved to treat members of the Fraternal Order of Police. For more information, or to speak to a representative, go to chateaurecovery.com or call 888-507-5031.
No One Fights Alone is also sponsored by First Responder Trauma Counselors. First Responder Trauma Counselors are subject matter experts in proactive behavioral health care for frontline workers through their National Peer Support Academy. This 40-hour all badges, all uniforms, and all scrubs educational experience helps to create caring, honest, and empathetic peer support relationships with your fellow frontline workers. The FRTC National Peer Support Academy is taught by actual first responders who have gone back to school to become culturally competent, licensed behavioral health clinicians that teach from lived experiences, not just theories from books. This fast-paced, immersive educational academy will not just change your life, it will help you save the lives of others. For additional details, visit 991overwatch.org or call 970-222-419-3. This could be the most life-changing academy you'll ever attend.